Hey folks, Natasha here checking in. Doing a video that's going to be new for me and my channel, which hasn't been updated in a long time. But coming in to talk about my decision and journey to get vertical sleeve gastrectomy or VSG surgery and give sort of an update of where I am now about 6 weeks out from the surgery. So, I got my vertical sleeve gastrectomy on June 21st, 2016. It is August 5th, 2016. So I'm approximately, I believe, 6 weeks out from my surgery. So I went to my first visit at my surgeon's office January 4th, 2016. Based on my health insurance, I live in New Jersey. I have United Healthcare, and through my job, and based on the regulations there, the surgeon's office let me know it would be approximately 6 months before I'd be able to have the surgery. So I actually set my date for surgery with that first visit. My surgery date was initially May 31st. It was pushed out 3 weeks. My surgeon had to go unexpectedly out of the country, so it was pushed out 3 weeks. So if you've watched any other information about VSG, many people probably had the same type of preliminary work that they had to do before they were able to get their surgery. So I had to go to my primary care physician, have them fill out this letter of medical necessity, where basically your physician has to put your weight over the years that they've been treating you, information about weight loss programs you may have tried, and list out that they feel it's medically necessary for you to have this surgery. And they also include any comorbidities that you may have, and the comorbidities are illnesses or I don't know what you call them if they're not necessarily illnesses, but conditions you may have that are exacerbated or can be exacerbated by being overweight. So things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes are some of the things that may be comorbidities. You have to meet with a nutritionist. I believe I had to do 2 or 3 visits before the surgery. You have to go to cardiologist, gastroenterologist, a lung doctor to do a breathing test, make sure you have enough oxygen. At the cardiologist, you have to do a stress test and a echocardiogram. And gastroenterologist, you have to do an upper endoscopy, and you have to have a few follow-up visits with your surgeon. And after your last follow-up, if you have all of your documentation in, then they set up a time for you to get an ultrasound done. And in the ultrasound, they are checking the arteries and veins, I believe, in your neck and in your thigh, like your upper thigh. And then you also have to go and get your pre-admission testing done. And that's really where you, for the hospital I went to, which was used to be Somerset Medical Center in Somerville, New Jersey. It's now Robert Wood Johnson at Somerset. So it was sort of asking you lots of questions about your medical history and your home environment, and then they do they pre-register me for the day of surgery, and they do what's called, I think, like type and test. So especially if you've never been there before, they take a blood sample from you twice, so they can make sure they are giving you the right, that there's no mistake, that you have the right blood type identified. So all of that was sort of all of the doctor's visits and administrative stuff you had to do to get ready. My insurance plan that I have through my job is a high cost insurance plan. So My coverage covers my husband and I, and so the deductible that I have to meet before the insurance starts paying 90% is I think I got the gold plan, so it's like between 2,500 and 3,000, something like that. So basically, all of the pre-work I was doing, I had to pay for. I did reach the threshold right before the surgery, so the surgery was covered 90%. With my insurance covering 90% of the surgery, that left my piece of the surgery about $2,900. That's my responsibility. So this is not, if you have United Healthcare and you have a high cost plan like I do, which is it's a PPO, not an HMO, but you are going to have some out of pocket expense then that's associated with it. Some other videos I've seen, some people have different insurance plans, and their deductibles like $500 or $250 or something like that. But so that's how it went. Good news, I guess, silver lining for that is I have, with the surgery expense, and I've reached my out-of-pocket maximum for the year, which is good. And again, these deductible rates and out-of-pocket rates are for a plan that covers two people. So I have myself and my husband's also on my insurance plan. It would be about half of this if it was just me on my insurance. But so follow-up visits and any doctor's visits I need to take for the rest of the year should be free. So I guess silver lining, because we never reach the deductible normally. So plan on using these benefits. So that's it from a kind of doctor's visit, health insurance kind of perspective. So the actual prep work to get ready for the surgery. Oh, I did leave out that you have to see a therapist. It's just one visit. They do an evaluation. I guess it could be more if they needed to see you more, but they ask you a plethora of questions to make sure that you're a good candidate mentally for this surgery. So, and yeah, it was a very short visit. A lot of questions, but actually very short visit with the therapist that I had to see. So, some background information on why I decided to go with the vertical sleeve gastrectomy. I basically have gone from sort of thick to straight up overweight to obese to morbidly obese on a slow, steady climb since shortly after puberty hit. So probably since 12, 13. So, and I'm 5 feet tall. Well, if you round up, like 4'11" and a half. So, I, in the 8th grade and all through high school, I wore like a size 13, 14 in juniors, which I guess would be probably about a 12, probably about a 12 in misses sizes. Wore that kind of all through high school and into like my first year of college. But I started gaining weight in college. And maybe it's because we didn't have gym class every day. Maybe that was the only thing keeping me in that range. I don't know. But I started gaining weight kind of steadily. So I went from a 12 in misses to wearing like a 14. But that was still fine because I could still shop in the stores. Until at some point I looked up in my second year that I had gone away, and I was wearing like smooth in the size like 18s or going to like 18, 20. So that kind of happened over like freshman year and beyond. When I left school, I left after my second year. I stayed around that same range for a few years, but it was kind of a steady climb. I plateaued there for a while. Then I went up to 22, 24. I wasn't really concerned about it. Didn't feel bad about myself. just figured out, I was going to be a fluffy chick. So just be fabulous and fluffy. Can't stop it. Can't shop in like the Limited and Express anymore, but I can tear up some Lane Bryant and wherever else had some cute clothes. So I didn't really worry about it. I didn't have any health concerns that were related to my weight. No high blood pressure, no high cholesterol, no high blood sugar, nothing like that. So, was pretty good. And then it kept steadily kind of climbing up to where 22, 24 didn't really work. Well, 24s by themselves didn't really work. I tried to hold on there for a while, and then I was in the 26, 28. And if I'm honest with myself, when I got to my heaviest, which was probably last December 2015, around that time frame, leading up to that, if it wasn't like a generous, like a dress or a generous 28 and certain things, I was probably busting into the 30s. But, we'll say a size 28 because that's where I tried to keep it. But even that stuff was uncomfortable. And I got to a point where I wasn't happy. So I didn't feel good in my body. It's a lot more effort to move around. And things like walking around the mall or, going to New York City and like parking, 4 or 5 blocks away from your destination, it became like daunting, right? I'd walk and would feel like burning in my back from just the strain of walking and being this large. So I got to a point where I wasn't happy with myself anymore. And I didn't like how I looked in my clothes. I didn't like my body. And I just turned 40 in July this past month. And I didn't feel like I was, approaching 40. I did not want to go into what I hope is the second half, of my life. I want to live a nice long life. I didn't want to go into that and not feel good about my body and not be able to be active and healthy. Also, probably about a year, maybe a year and a half now, I started having blood pressure that continued to trend to be high. And my primary care physician put me on blood pressure medicine. And that was concerning because high blood pressure and strokes run on my father's side of the family. My father actually died quite young of a stroke. He had a stroke and a brain aneurysm burst, and he was 37. His mother, lived to be 79 and like a half, but she had a couple of strokes. So up until, it was about 38 or so, didn't really worry about my blood pressure because it had always been good. But that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure, I kept under control. And I didn't want to be beholden to taking increased doses of blood pressure medicine and just kind of going on like that. So I wanted to take control of my health and do something where I would feel good about myself. So I tried a couple of the things that I used to do before. If I wanted to knock off some weight, I could do like the first stage of the Fat Smash diet for where I think it's 10 days, 14 days, and no sugar, whole grain, only like just brown rice. It's like vegetables, fruit, no carbs, very low carbs except for the brown rice and like some oatmeal. And usually I could drop maybe like 15 pounds and get to where like, okay, I'm feeling good again. Or I could do a clean eating thing. I had done some clean eating challenges that had done very well where I would lose maybe like 20 pounds over a 1 month period. And those were things that, would kick back up, go hit the gym a little bit, and I wouldn't lose a significant amount of weight, but I'd be able to kind of keep it under a certain level and stay in those 26s, right? But those things they stopped working for me. So that also, I didn't feel good about that. And I started wondering about, is there another tool that I could use that would help me be able to steadily lose weight and put me in a better position to keep it off. So although previously I had said like I would never do weight loss surgery because I used to feel perfectly fine about my fluffy body, and also I had not heard good stories about the gastric bypass, and I didn't know too much about the other things. I started researching the different types of weight loss surgery, and decided on the sleeve, because for me, I didn't want to have the bypass where I didn't want to have my digestive tract rerouted. So making my stomach smaller is fine, but I didn't want to have any thing where it was rerouted to a different spot of my intestines, and you have deal with malabsorption forever. You'll never be able to absorb all of the nutrients out of your food because the digestive tract has been modified. And the lap band, I didn't want to have to, for the amount of weight I'd like to lose, I didn't want to have to continue to go in to get my lap band adjusted. So if I was going to have some surgery and have something done, I wanted it to be something that you get it done, it is permanent, and then you work with that and not have to continue to go back and get it adjusted. So I became interested in the sleeve and started watching YouTube videos, Googling, talking to people who'd had it, and I liked what I saw. I liked that the weight loss is seemed to be pretty steady, um, initially or whatever. And the folks that had it that I knew, they didn't have complications and seemed to be doing well. So that's why I decided to go with VSG as opposed to some of the other types of weight loss surgeries.